Lamar Jackson said over the weekend that if he does not have a contract by the time the regular season begins, he will not sign an extension during the season and will not negotiate during the season, considering that he's his own agent. And if you talk to people around the league right now, the sense is that he will not have an extension done. Now look, there's still a few weeks left, and there's the chance for both sides to get it done, but the two sides have been unable to work out a deal all of last year, all this offseason, all this summer. So you have to wonder what changes right now. It's more likely than not that he won't get that deal done, but let's see if deadlines spur action.
Yeah, Adam, it's hard to imagine them not getting that deal done, and yet, to your point, it seems like that's what we're heading toward, Lamar Jackson playing without the deal. It's no secret that Jackson deserves to be one of the league's highest-paid quarterbacks. Over the last 3 seasons, he's arguably been the league's most efficient, ranking second in both total QBR and touchdowns per pass attempt, and first among all players in yards per rush. The only player with a higher QBR over that span is Patrick Mahomes. The only player with a higher touchdown rate is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's the situation that we're in here when it comes to his stats alone. So, Mina, are you surprised that there hasn't been a resolution here yet?
A little bit. You know, it's hard to evaluate without knowing what's been offered, what's been asked for. We don't have those details. But I can tell you this. Baltimore has to get this deal done. Ideally, sooner rather than later. We know the longer these things drag on, he plays on the option, and then, and this is the great concern to Baltimore fans, plays on the tag. That price tag goes up as other deals get done. We also know, as you said, Lamar Jackson is the face of this franchise. But he's not just the face of the franchise, Laura. He's also its identity. And I think that gives him a unique amount of leverage over Baltimore. Quite frankly, this team is built in his image. They have a play caller who specializes in the run game. They have a roster that has one of the weaker wide receiving groups in the NFL, as much as I love Rashad Bateman, and that's a wide receiver group they did not improve upon this offseason. Instead, they focused on the offensive line, drafted a pair of tight ends, all of which is fine if you have Lamar Jackson because, you know, it plays to his strengths. But if you don't, if another quarterback were to come in here, they would not be a contender by any stretch of the imagination. So if I'm Baltimore, I do whatever it takes to push this thing over the goal line because I think this team is uniquely dependent on their quarterback.
But the truth of the matter, Mina, is that both sides need to get this deal done. If they don't get it done now, the Ravens can use the franchise tag on him next season and the season after. And so the truth is they control his rights for multiple seasons. And Lamar Jackson last season played it smartly, didn't do the extension at that time, and the values have gone up and up and up. But at some point in time, you want to cash in your chips, particularly when the money has gotten to the level it has. But I think one of the issues here is that Deshaun Watson got a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. And when that happens, that changes some of the dynamics for some of the other quarterbacks looking for big new deals like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's an important clarification that Adam's making there, the guaranteed money being the sticking point in these contracts, and potentially, as we find out more about whether this deal is going to be done, that could be something that we continue to talk about. You see Kyler Murray get paid, you see Deshaun Watson get paid, but the guaranteed money in Watson's contract is key here. Marcus, who is under more pressure to get this deal done? Because I think you look at it from the Ravens side, as Mina's pointing out, and you say it must be them, but what about Lamar too?
I wholeheartedly agree with MK.
Yeah.
That's Mina Kimes for the people that's new here. Because,
we got new people?
Because it is uniquely designed
right.
for Lamar Jackson. But I also look at this situation, and I don't have a visceral reaction like maybe 2-3 years ago. If you think about Kirk Cousins has made $159 million. That's more than any other quarterback that's currently playing in the NFL. He did that through getting franchise tag.
Right.
You look at Dak Prescott franchise tag. I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure that Lamar number would be upwards of 40 plus if he played on a franchise tag, as Adam alluded to, the next 2 years of owning his rights. He may be content with doing that. It's a 2-year, $80 million deal, essentially, if he doesn't sign an extension after this, before this season or even in the next offseason. So I would have had pause because as former players, you always think injury. That's how our minds are programmed. Get to your bag before you get injured. But we saw Dak Prescott ankle get twisted 3 ways and still get $40 million because his team like the Baltimore Ravens, and not as much is dependent on Dak Prescott and his performance, especially going into this year for the Cowboys. So I look at Lamar's situation totally different than I would have looked at it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, with injury concerns. They exist, but it's not that killing your career like it used to be. And I think Lamar has that card in his back pocket as well.
Maybe right.
Yeah, it's a great point. And earlier I said we don't know what he's asking for. But Adam, your point about the two contracts that we're considering here, Kyler Murray's contract, the most recent deal, but Deshaun Watson's contract is really significant because you guys remember when that Watson deal came out, it was the owner of the Baltimore Ravens, Steve Bisciotti, who was not pleased with all those guarantees. And it looks like he might have had reason to be if Lamar Jackson is, to your point, asking for more guarantees than Kyler Murray did. Kyler Murray did a very standard quarterback deal. We wondered, would Watson's deal affect other quarterbacks? Well, if it's affecting Jackson, then that's going to cause a rift between the organization and the quarterback because I don't think they would want to give him as much guarantees as Cleveland did.
Listen, we're talking about injuries, but he plays different than Kirk Cousins, and he plays different than even Dak Prescott. Lamar Jackson runs around and make plays. And right now, you'd have to figure, and again, I don't know the specifics in the negotiations, but I guarantee you the Ravens are offering more guaranteed money than Kyler Murray got, which is about $160 million, and less than the $230 guaranteed million that he got from Cleveland. So Deshaun Watson. So if the guaranteed money is between $160 and $230 million, somewhere in that range, Marcus and Mina, do you want to take that chance and play this year the way he does? I know injury concerns, quarterbacks come back. How much money you need? Listen, he's done a great job getting it to this point. A great job. I'd be careful. I'd be conservative. That's me. He's lived his life playing the way he has, and he's done unbelievable. But at some point, it's that great, the money? Wow.
Buggy out research. I need you to find out what would that tag number be over the next 2 years. I want our audience to know what Lamar would make in those franchise
We'll
seasons.
find that out, and we'll get back to it. But either way, it's a really interesting clarification and information that Adam's putting out there.
Yeah.
You know, the guaranteed money is somewhere in that range. Do they go higher? The Ravens? We'll find out. And by the way, Lamar Jackson's a dang good agent for himself. I think that's one thing we're seeing too. All right, another piece of good news for the Ravens. Marcus Peters came off the PUP list and practiced today. Remember, he tore his ACL last season.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.